My bangs hate me. My bangs hate me today. They are just not working with me. Okay, let's share this to Discord real quick while I putz around with these. Okay, there we go. Welcome in, everyone. My bangs just don't like me. I have a hunk right here that's just, they're playing anime. They're playing anime bang game. Okay, so now we are going to share this. Welcome in, everyone. We are going to share with you and 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 you, you and you, you. Wheezy stew scoop. Welcome in, everyone. I hope you're having a wonderful day. And last but not least, where is it? Right there. Beautiful. Hi, Izzy. How are you? Your goats arrived? Welcome in, everyone. I hope you're having a wonderful Wednesday. Wednesday? It's not Wednesday. Holy guacamole. It's Thursday. I hope you're all having a wonderful Thursday. Hi, Rhodey. Welcome in. Welcome in, everyone. So tonight I have Erin Petrey on. She is running for Kentucky's Congressional District 6. Yes. Woohoo! I remembered. So she's running for Congressional District 6, which is their House of Representatives. And my bangs really do not like me. There we go. There we go. Arching feather. I can deal with that. I can deal with this. Hi, you love. How are you? Hey, Rock. Meow. I see you guys sneaking in. Good. I'm glad you're doing good. Thank you for the heart, me. Okay, let's move this just a hair this way so my knee doesn't hit it. There we go. You're trading, woman? Never. I'm a good girl. For a second, I thought you meant you were trading women. And I'm like, wait, what? I'm like, oh, no, you're doing your stock trading. Got it. Got it. Got it. Listen, with everything going on in the world right now, that would be a me thing. Welcome in, everyone. But how are you guys hanging out? Hey, Erin, there we go. I'll make that trade too. I mean, you're trading your ex for someone, right? It's tea. So I am drinking tea right now, Izzy. Let's turn you up.
I was like, what are we doing?
So I have volume with you. Now we just need video.
Yeah, I don't know why it's not.
So far, you're like the 5th person to have this issue.
I'm gonna leave and come back.
Yes. It's something about leaving and come back, and then there's a button you can hit.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, exactly, Meowth. Never would I have thought in a million years I would be part of the sane and decent group of people in this country. Yeah. Yeah. You can't stay long downloading a game? Let the politics begin.
I was like, it's my picture, but what are we doing? Let's see. Why is it not showing my... here it is. There.
There we go.
Great.
Hey.
Fantastic.
You don't play much? Well, what game are you downloading, Meow? Hey, PJ, welcome in, guys. So we have Erin Petrey here. She is running in Kentucky. She is running for their House of Representatives, Congress District 6. So what part of Kentucky is in your district? What cities, what area, what counties, all of that?
Sure. Yeah. It's Petrey, like the dish, by the way.
Petrey, okay.
It happens all the time. Yeah. Petrey, like the dish. So the 6th district of Kentucky. So in Kentucky, we have 6 U.S. House districts. 6th district is Central Kentucky. The main city is Lexington. We have 16 counties, though. 14 of those are whole counties, and 2 are partial. Thanks, gerrymandering. So I have all of Fayette County, and then I have Woodford County, which is Versailles. If you're a bourbon person, that's where things like Woodford Reserve are. We have Madison County, which is Richmond, where Eastern Kentucky University and Berea College are. We have Georgetown, which is in Scott County. That's where the big Toyota manufacturing facility is. We have Georgetown College there. We have, Woodford County also has Midway College in it. And then we have Lawrenceburg in Anderson County, where I grew up. Garrett County, which has Lancaster, Estill County, Powell County, where the Red River Gorge starts. I know there's Nicholas Fleming, Montgomery County, Mercer County. We've got quite a few counties. So,
it's a big area. It's not like in Indiana where we have 95 House districts.
Well, so this is the United States House of Representatives.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so this is federal. So we have 6. Yeah, so this is federal, right? So we do have tons of U.S. House, like we have tons of state districts, but I'm running for the United States House of Representatives. So we only have 6 districts there. Yeah.
So there's a lot of people who, thank you for explaining, because a lot of them are actually running for their state's house, not the federal level. Yeah. I think you're the first I've come across who's actually running on the federal level instead of the state level.
I am running for the federal level.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. But that's just it. I just want to have anybody on who wants to have the ability to have a voice.
Hey, I'm here writing donor thank you notes. So this is what I've been doing all day. So this is a great like palate cleanser for me because the process of running for office is really bizarre, to be honest with you. So I'm not a politician. I've never been a politician before. I'm someone who came from the private sector, but I've done organizing and community engagement. And I've always been very politically aware. And I did get out the vote for, Biden. I did it for Hillary Clinton. I've done phone banking before. But it was really this particular last election cycle where I was like, you know what? The people who continue to become the nominees, I can't let this keep going. Especially in my home district where it seems like the Democratic Party, well, no, it's not. It seems like the Democratic Party here has just been a joke for a really long time. We have been dead for a long time. Someone said the other day, they were like, really, since Wendell Ford left? And I was like, well, Wendell Ford left in the 90s. So, that was the last Democratic senator we had. That's Wendell Ford. You will know his seat because Rand Paul has his seat now.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, we have PJ saying hi to both of us and hoping we're doing great. Meow is actually downloading the game Palia. I've thought about getting into that one. And then PJ saying, oh, those are cool to your little donor thank yous. And then he goes,
oh, yeah.
As a right-leaning independent, I hope to gain some insight on your views. So he was very much a Republican, and now he's no, definitely not that, but he's more the right-leaning, which people, it's okay to adjust your views as you go.
Oh, yeah, totally, always.
But that's one thing where he and I have been working for almost 2 years now on educating him so he understands the basis of what's going on in our country, so that way he's more informed, because a lot of people admitted they weren't that informed, so they voted for Trump thinking he'd do a good job.
Yeah, and so, Kentucky is one of those places where the last time we went blue for a president was Clinton, but Kentucky used to be super blue, right? It's not something that has always been the case that we've been really red. But, the thing is with Trump is that Trump ran on fake populism, right? He was like, we're going to, we're going to increase your wages. We're going to lower your taxes. We're going to like protect your jobs. We're going to bring in more jobs, which are things that people wanted, right? And the Democratic Party, frankly, was doing nothing, right? The Democratic Party was speaking to people with poll numbers and consultant approved talking points, which is what really screwed them over, right? We tried to be more, and I say we, I don't really subscribe to this. I think it's really more of like the DNC and the DCCC. The DCCC is the Democratic Congressional, it's the election committee, right? And so there's one for the Senate, and there's one for the House, right? So there's a congressional committee, and then there's the Senate committee, and those are the ones that really work on those Senate and House races. And they have just become like overeducated white people with laptops and Substacks. And, I will say, like, I am probably I fit that bill, but like, it's one of those things where like, I get pissed off at those consultant driven talking points, because that's not what people really care about. People care about how they can feed their families, if they can pay their bills, if they can go to school and like get a better job and like, God forbid, take a vacation or like buy a new car at some point. Right.
Or be able to save for retirement one day.
Yeah, it's nuts.
I don't want to work till I'm 80. I don't know about you, but I'd like 60, 65, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
At the
Well, it's like, what they always say. It's always, there's that thing, right, where it's like, well, what did you dream of? What do you dream of like, what's your dream job? And it's like, I don't dream of labor, right? Like, I use labor as a way to like, like actually like buy things that I love. But it's one of those things where like, you can't moral police people who voted for Trump, like, unless they're white supremacists. And if they voted for Trump because they hate all people, then I do have a problem with you, because that's just morally reprehensible. But if you voted for Trump, like from an economic standpoint, like I get it. The Democratic Party wasn't providing good, sources. They weren't providing, trustworthy people. I mean, Lord have mercy. Like they put in this octogenarian for a president who had no business running again. Right. I mean, I really would have held my nose and voted for Biden. I voted for Kamala because, I think that she was, qualified, but she had no chance because, with 100 days to the presidency, they just kind of shoved her in at the last minute. Right. So thank you, Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee. It's been a long day. Yes. Thank you.
It's been a long day for all of us.
I always just call it the D trip, and I'm like, oh yeah, the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee. That's right. Yeah. And so, one of the things that I'm trying to do a lot with Democrats here in Kentucky is say like, hey, listen, you can't just run anti-Trump, right? Because a lot of people hate Trump, and especially what he's doing now, because he's ruining a lot of things for real people, right? Like everything from healthcare to housing. And, but people don't want to just vote for an anti, they want to know what they're voting for. And that's why everything I talk about is, listen, I'm for affordability, access, and opportunity. I want to try to make the American dream the American reality again. I'm for economic development. I'm for a living wage. I'm for universal health care, paying teachers more, things that'll actually benefit our economy and actually put more money into people's pockets. Because, I did come from the private sector, and I'm a progressive Democrat. And so I do think that there are a lot of things that we need to change about our systems. But everything I'm doing is also to encourage like entrepreneurialism and making sure people have higher wages. I like making money. It's great. Cause then I can buy nice things and go on travel, because I love to travel. And so when it comes to this whole divide with Trump, I just think that we can't be, so finger pointing and like, how dare you? It's more of like, tell me what would make you want to come and support us. What are your biggest issues? Talk to me about your issues. And that's really what I like to focus on. Is I don't like tell people, bless your heart if you voted for Trump, right? I'm like, bless your heart that you have been lied to, right? It sucks. That's terrible. And I understand why you voted that way, but let's try to actually find a way to make those challenges that you voted for initially. Let's see how we can actually solve them together, but in a way that is constructive.
Yes. No, I agree with absolutely all of that. And that's where, PJ is a perfect example of somebody who did and is deconstructing from that going, oh yeah, no, I did. And that's what a lot of people have to understand is if you did, those of us on the other side who tried to warn you, there's no undoing those choices. But what you do is you sit there and you take accountability, say, I did it. I messed up. What can I do to help fix it?
Yeah.
Because
well, also there's no joy, right? Like I'm not joyful that we like have Trump now, right? And like he's murdering children in Iran and Gaza, right? Like I don't, that's not something that I'm thrilled about, I'm not like, yeah, we told you and now I have to pay a lot more money for gas and I have to drive around my district, right? Like that's not the ethos that I want to lead with here.
Right. No. And he goes, as a 27-year-old man, I've given up on the political side of this country in general. I hear a lot of that. I hear a lot of that where people are just disenfranchised with all of it because they have been promised so many things, and the politicians, I use this word, the politicians keep reneging. Because here's the thing, I like to differentiate between two words, and it's representatives and politicians. So what I'm doing is I'm interviewing representatives. Representatives are there for their constituents. They're there to help make the lives of the people in their districts and their states and the country a better place. Not just line their pockets and the pockets of the corporations they work for that lobby them. That's what we have. We have so many politicians that are bought, and we know this. They're lobbied. Perfect example is the coal industry. It's lobbying not just in Indiana, but it's lobbying in Kentucky because of the data centers.
Well, it's not just because of the data centers. I'll tell you, so one of the big reasons that coal is lobbying here is because all of these coal companies, by the way, the person, Andy Barr, whose seat I'm running for, he has been the top 3 recipient of money from mining companies since he got into office in 2013. And the thing is, there's no coal in my district. Like literally none. And so one of the reasons they're doing that is because they say it's because, for AI data centers, but it's also because like all of these coal companies have all this like land and they want to try to find new markets. But the challenge is, and I wrote a Substack about this, coal in Kentucky is not even domestically competitive. So you could still, like, coal could be a freaking boom market and coal in Kentucky would still not be competitive. It is quality coal, but it's really deep. It's really difficult seams to reach. Most of the jobs, and people look at coal in Kentucky and they think jobs, right? Like they conflate coal with jobs because at one point it did represent jobs. And so the thing is that mechanization is what really killed all of coal jobs here. It was mechanization. That was like 70 years ago too. And so it's really hard to get into those coal seams and extract that coal. So it has nothing to do with like wokeism and like clean energy. Right. And I'm a huge proponent for renewable energy because it's more affordable, but it's just it's not practical anymore.
Well, and the reason why I bring up the data centers is because and again, this is not just one state, it's multiple states where they're taking that opportunity because these things are so labor intensive and these states are still reliant on fossil fuels, not renewable energy, that it's giving them the platform they need to push in order to have more coal plants, developed to power these data centers, not necessarily pull the coal out of the ground, but to use it and bring it in and use that to power their data centers, because otherwise, it's diesel. The other alternative they have for a lot of them, because of the amount of, energy they sap from the grid, is to use 6,000, gallon tank diesel generators. And either way you go, it's bad for the atmosphere. It's bad for the environment. It's going to make people sickly, especially in those areas. And that's part of the problem.
So I worked in the data center industry. I worked at AWS for about 1.5 years in sustainability right before I did this, because I was like, what's a big problem? Data centers. What did I work in? I worked in sustainability and renewables. So I was like, well, let me go and tackle a really big problem. So I'm actually very well versed in data centers. And so to be honest with you, most data center providers don't want to use coal because they all have... Yeah. And they have like, especially like Amazon has like a net zero carbon goal by 2040, right? And others have by 2050. And they're all trying to reduce the amount of fossil fuels they're using. So they're investing more in nuclear as well as in solar and renewable, right? But at the same time, they still need power. And so I love nuclear energy, to be honest with you. I think nuclear is the future. Nuclear is the cleanest form of carbon-free energy out there. And I think that nuclear gets a really bad reputation because of kind of like some of the meltdowns that have happened. But the truth is that a lot of that technology has improved significantly since then. And there's been really promising technology coming out of places like Finland that rely a lot on nuclear, about neutralizing the waste. Now, I know that we are way, like between like fission and fusion, right? Like we're a ways away from cracking it. But like it's the future. Nuclear really is the future. And there's a reason that Microsoft bought 3 Mile Island and is using that is going to be putting that online to power their data centers. And Amazon is doing the same thing with Talent Energy in Pennsylvania. They're also investing a lot in small modular nuclear reactors. And that's actually a bipartisan issue that can move forward. And I know there's a lot of NIMBYism around nuclear. And so that's a challenge, but like nuclear really is clean. And I'm a vegetarian, so I don't like meatloaf. So
my only issue with nuclear, and I've voiced this to PJ before, is the waste. Is figuring out a way to utilize that waste so it's not put back into our planet and causing, radioactive, issues and people getting sick and all of that. That has always been my only issue. Now, mind you, one of my cousins is a nuclear physicist, and I do know they are working on that. They're just not where they need to be in order to sustainably make sure that the waste products don't make it back into the planet. Making sense?
Yeah, and there's really good ways. So that, let's talk about waste in general, right? So you can look at coal, right? The amount of heavy metals and pollutants that a coal-powered plant puts out, not to even mention the fact that most of the coal-powered plants are incredibly inefficient. So most of them are aging out because a normal life cycle for a power plant for coal is around 30 to 40 years. And a lot of them are getting extensions for their life cycles. And so those are much more dangerous than a nuclear facility, right? Yeah. And the chance of an actual meltdown is so rare. And we are continuing to find new ways to neutralize that waste. Right. But even if we like ran everything nuclear, it would still be like less of a risk than if we ran everything coal from a health standpoint, like a public health standpoint.
Well, and that's a lot of what I look at is, have to understand wherever I go, I'm going to have issues depending on the air pollution because I have asthma and my daughter had pneumonia for the first time at 6 months old. So we both have lung issues. And that's one of the things that I look into when I travel, because I do travel a lot for work, is what is the air quality going to be like where I'm at? Do I need to make sure I bring my extra inhaler? Do I need to take my nebulizer with me? Because at the end of the day, I'm going to be wheezing. Like, those are some of the things I have to take into mind. And then with knowing that they passed a law recently stating where the state's EPA standards cannot be more stringent than the federal government's EPA standards, which...
Yeah, so there is a lot on the preempting of various types of laws from that perspective, from a state's perspective, which really boggles my mind from like a federalist standpoint, because the Republican Party tends to be like, no, let the states decide. But on this particular issue, I'm like, well, why couldn't the states go above and beyond? And the federal is the minimum.
Yeah, thank you.
Right. So there are rumblings of things that are happening in Congress around the federal government preempting states from being able to regulate AI and data centers. And so I think that's incredibly dangerous. So essentially saying that like, oh, well, if we say you can't regulate this kind of AI, then the states can't do it. Now that's going to go to the Supreme Court, full stop. Because we have to have states start leading on requiring data centers to provide a certain percentage of their energy, to provide a percentage of jobs, to provide a certain amount of investment into their local communities, to provide minimum efficiency requirements on power, energy, and circular materials. Power, water, and circular materials. And so there's a lot that goes in there that states can lead with, kind of similar to what California did with CARB, which is the Air Resource Board. And so, where they did it for emissions, right, and requiring certain amount of electric vehicles, et cetera. So I think that that's one of the opportunities that states have. And I do not agree with the federal government coming in and trying to say, oh, no, you guys can't regulate AI because, OpenAI, freaking Elon Musk and all of these companies are giving money to politicians to try to buy their way out of it.
And that's, again, that is part of the problem and why we need to vote all of them out and bring in people.
Absolutely. Clean slate.
All of them. Who instead can be like, let's be realistic and honest about this. Let's look at the longevity of the people of our country and the health of the people in our country.
Absolutely.
Because all you're doing is passing those health health issues onto the people who are going to be stuck footing the bill for them being sick because you're doing A, B, and C.
Well, it's going to be like the next epidemic, right? And so, like how we had, issues with like lung cancer, and now we're seeing like colorectal cancer with like friends, people our age. And, these are things that continue to happen. Like there was like breast cancer, there's all these challenges that come about because of societal issues. You can even look at it as like kind of like it's the Agent Orange, like it's the HIV epidemic. Like these are all societally driven things. And the unfortunate truth is these issues, these public health issues disproportionately impact lower income and communities of color. And so because, no like fancy white neighborhood would be like, yeah, I have a data center here, have a power plant here. They're like, why can't you locate that in like a poorer area of town or like a less desirable area of town?
It's not going to bother us. Yeah. No, we have those rural areas where they're looking to buy up the farmland.
Where are you located?
So I'm in central Indiana.
Okay. That's right. You did mention Indiana. That's right. Yeah.
So I'm about 45 minutes north of the 465 Indianapolis area.
Yeah. You're just north of me. So
yeah. So it's one of those like, yeah, no, like I'm a 3-hour drive from like, Louisville.
Yeah.
It's not that far from me. So it's one of those when I was looking, because speaking of data centers, I know that Southern Indiana is getting hit and impacted hard because they've already started receiving notices that if they don't conserve their data or their energy usage, there's going to start rolling blackouts because of the data
that's a real issue, right? And so energy security is one of the things that I focus on a lot on my platform. I'm the only person in my race who even talks about energy. I think it's because I'm also the only one who actually knows anything about it. But it is a huge issue, and it's an affordability issue. It's a national security issue. It's an economic issue. We can't do anything without electricity. And so we are going to be really screwed, frankly. And I would support like an interim, like moratorium on new data centers until there are minimum efficiency standards created and we ratchet down crypto mining significantly, because 10% of data center utilization is crypto mining, and that doesn't help anybody. It creates no jobs. Like it does nothing. It's all fake. And so it's one of these things where, we also just have this like unbridled utilization of AI and generative AI, and people don't really realize it. And I'm like, yeah, you making stupid little pictures, like, yes, that uses water and stuff. But what I'm really talking about is like the big companies using a ton of generative AI and just running these LLMs to try to get rid of jobs. And so when it comes to a workforce standpoint, I believe one of the greatest solutions that we have to combating AI taking over jobs is moving our revenue model or moving our taxation model. So FICA, which is like, Social Security and Medicare and like unemployment tax and like that kind of like all rolls into there. We need to move that for companies that cite AI and layoffs from a payroll model where they pay those taxes on payroll and move it to a revenue model.
Yep. I agree. Mm-hmm. So I spent 7 years in payroll. I know the ins and out of all of that. I work.
So FICA.
So when it comes to payroll and all of that, oh yeah, I'm your girl. I can in and out. I can give you the back and front of all of it. But no, you're right. It's a lot of that where they need to shift away from certain types of models. Where perfect example is they're trying to shift my entire industry from being W-2 to 1099, and I'm a massage therapist.
Yeah,
and that does not benefit us because, okay, so you're going to increase our pay by $2 an hour, but now we're going to pay $5 more an hour before taxes that we are now liable for.
Yep.
But you set our schedule, you put the people on it. We just tell you what days we can be there. That, believe it or not, is a W-2 job. It is. Yeah. Because unless I am 100% in control of who I'm seeing, what I'm seeing, everything day to day, that is not a 1099 job. That is a W-2. And they're trying to classify a lot of home health workers as 1099s instead of W-2s. And it's not great. Since they reversed a lot of those professional degrees and made them non-professionals, they're trying to transition from W-2s to 1099s because it's not a professional degree anymore.
Which is absurd. Which is just a way for them to try to engineer people not being able to get loans for those roles. So.
Plus, a lot of my industry and the industry they're hitting, guess what gender most of the people are?
Oh, they're women.
Yeah. It's about 80 to 85% female for these three industries that are being impacted. That's a lot of women they're trying to put out of jobs and pay less while they're saying, oh, we'll pay you $2 more. But at the end of the day, you're going to pay way more to the government because we're not paying that anymore.
Yeah.
The problems because why should I be on the hook and on, for something that your company, you should be paying? No, that's where we go and we look at, okay, depending on what you're doing, if you're causing all of your employees to be 1099s, there's a problem there because they probably shouldn't be. But that's just it is nobody knows. They're reclassifying what's called a 1099. So that way it's easier for them to reclassify them and not have to pay them properly, not give them benefits, not give them health insurance, not give them PTO, not give them dental, not give them 401k, not give them everything they give the W-2 employees.
Yeah. I want to address this one comment that PJ just said about primarily Indian and white town. We have a lot of data centers. So the two biggest clusters that AWS has of data centers on the East Coast are in Loudoun County, Virginia, which is a super zip, which is one of the wealthiest zip codes in the country. And then Columbus, Ohio. So Dublin, Ohio. And that's a pretty wealthy suburb outside of Columbus. And Columbus is not it's not a poor city. And so the data centers is one thing, but it's what I was really referring to from the people of color, the lower income areas. That's really where the power generation happens. That's really what I was talking about. But there's also we're dealing with a lot of the data center thing here. So in the hometown where my mom is from, Maysville, someone just rejected a $26 million bid for their land. Yeah. For a data center. And we're dealing with that here in Madison County as well as Mercer County. And, some people are like, well, I don't think it's enough for you to just say that you don't want new data centers until XYZ is done. I was like, well, I'm also practical about it, right? Because data centers at the end of the day, we can't do this without a data center. All this is run through a data center. Everything on your phone is run through a data center. Netflix, everything that you do, I'm sorry, but it is run through a data center. And at its heart, data centers are a good deal. Data centers are good at their heart in the sense that so the whole purpose of a data center is to move things from on-premises servers and computing to the cloud, right? And that is incredibly more efficient, not just from a cost basis, from also an energy and water utilization basis. It uses less equipment, so that means less raw materials, less rare earth minerals. And so you can actually do a lot more in the cloud. But the problem is that people look at the cloud and they're like, oh, well, let's just keep doing more and more and more and more. And the biggest challenge is really Gen AI and this whole AI revolution, and it's not being checked at all. And so it's just constant proliferation, and the data centers can't be built fast enough to actually create that. To address that demand. The supply significantly outstrips that demand. But once again, it has everything to do with, now we're replacing people with AI and generative AI. And so that's wrong. And these companies need to be held to task for that.
And again, there's a lot of things where people used to do, but you don't need somebody to design things for you anymore. You can just plug it into this and you have this AI system that designs everything for you. You put a picture in and it designs its whole story for you. It's great on one hand, but on the other hand, what it's doing is it's taking away a lot of things from the normal person, because, it's now going to make it a lot harder for me or for you or for this person who wants to go down these careers. Like my husband, he's got a degree in graphic design. Yeah. There's no point because anybody, myself included, I can't draw. I have no degree. I could go into an AI model and plug in a few things and it will put together exactly what I want way better and faster than he could. That's part of the problem is because it's taking away a huge portion of revenue and jobs in industries, especially the creative industry, from people who, that's just what they do. Their brains are that creative. They're meant to be doing that. But now we have computers taking away that too. And I know
it's not just creative. It's also coding.
Yep. And it's music. It's a lot of different things where people can just create, and you could be an AI music producer and nobody would know the difference.
Which is bullshit.
Exactly.
There's no such thing as an AI music. They're like, I'm an AI artist. I was like, that's not a thing. Go away. Go away. Oh, I'm sorry. You're better at prompting a model than I am. Great. Good for you.
I'm a volunteer firefighter in New Jersey, and I get a decent amount of calls to most of the data centers here. There's a lot of that goes on in those machines at the data centers that I can't understand. Now, he did talk about how there have been a few fires at some of the data centers, and they've had to go put them out.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I mean, the reason why, so I mean, computers, when they work, they create power or create heat. So sometimes it could trip something. So yeah. Yeah, the machines, it's actually pretty simple. It's just computer servers and hard drives. Like it just runs models all the time. That's what it does. And then it transmits it out. So, think of like your phone as kind of like a remote control, and like the data center is like the repository of all that information, and you're just like using your remote control to like control what's in the data center.
You can't use any normal means of firefighting. You have to use special fire extinguishers that won't damage the equipment. Yep.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, it's really expensive equipment.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep. Yeah, and one thing I was actually, because I was looking into some of the different things and laws and everything going in for the data centers, where how it differs from Indiana. I'm like, why couldn't Indiana have done that? Because for Kentucky, they have a high load factor tariff applied to all of these data centers, where they have to pay 80 to 85% of their contracted usage period up to 15 years. So whatever their contract is, even if they don't use that full amount, they pay that full amount. And I'm like, why can't Indiana do something like that? Because instead they told them, oh, for X amount of years, you don't have to foot the bill for the data or for the energy. Instead, the citizens will, which is the reason why people have already seen $300 to $400 spikes in their
Well, and that's why I want to go beyond that and say, like, there is the tariff guarantee, but it's like what I actually want to do is ensure that data centers are on the hook for actually generating that power that they need and investing and expanding that infrastructure.
And that was the other part, is because part of that is they're required to fund new plants to help with the energy grid. So that way, if they're using XYZ, okay, great. Well, you have to make sure you're generating XYZ to compensate for that.
Yeah.
I love that. Again.
Yeah. But I think that should be the national standard.
I do. Honestly, and that's why I'm sitting there going, why couldn't Indiana have done that? Because that makes sense. And that keeps the data centers on the hook for the majority of everything, which is what should happen, rather falling back on the citizens of that state, where they're already strapped. How are they supposed to be able to afford it?
Yeah. And also, I mean, energy rates have gone up not just because of data centers. It also has gone up because of climate change. But it's also gone up because of the big bullshit bill that was passed, especially starting earlier this year in February. A lot of the rollbacks for the, things like wind turbine development were halted, and that really reduced capacity. And so when you use more and there is less coming in, the rates go up. And so, tariffs can also impact that too, especially with new capacity building, because a lot of that is stuff from overseas, right? Because a lot of that steel does come from overseas. Same thing with transmission lines. So there's a lot that has gone into that. And it's just the fact that we're using a lot more electricity now. Things are hotter, things are colder. And the data centers is another big driver to that.
So PJ says, let's see. He forgot where he was going with that. The electricity bill in his town are insane from them. He lives in a small town bordered on west of Hudson County, New Jersey. We have maybe 20 centers in a 4 square mile.
Yeah.
Phoenix, go ahead.
No, I was going to answer Phoenix. You go ahead. Say it. Yeah.
I was going to say, he's asking, how are seniors supposed to keep up with energy increase?
I mean, it's not seniors, it's everybody. Like, it's not just seniors. Like, I understand that seniors are on a fixed income, but a lot of people who are on minimum wage or who are on, other things are also on a fixed income, right? And so it's really everybody. It's every person, working or retired. And I think it's a huge existential question. And I think that that's another reason why we absolutely have to pass permitting reform, because currently it takes way too long to actually get new capacity online, upgrade transmission and distribution lines, because a lot of those are aging and there's also just not enough capacity. But it's also by throttling, the power, like on data centers, putting a moratorium on them and making sure that we are doing the right things as far as efficiency goes. But yeah, I mean, everything is more expensive. Inflation is going up. My mom just yelled at me earlier and was like, oh my God, we're going to look at 4.3% inflation soon. And I'm like, yeah, I know, it's really bad. And it's just so much. It's death by 1,000 very deep cuts at this point. It's not even paper cuts. These are deep cuts everywhere. I mean, gas going up $1.20 a gallon is a lot, right? A lot.
It's over $4.
Yeah, well, I
Makes me
mean,
look
and
like
I drive an old Mercedes. Like, it's a long story. Like, it's a 2009. It's an old car, and I have to buy premium gas, which really sucks because it's like $5, and I'm like, good lord! Like, I already was paying a lot for this, and I'm like, well, I can't buy a new car right now. And so I was like, I'm just try to keep getting this one, keep it going until I can't make it go anymore. Yeah, and so it's just it's and that makes the cost of food go up because, as 75% of goods in this country are moved by trucks, right? Which are diesel powered. And so, diesel, I think, gosh, I went to one gas station today, it was like $6.
Yeah,
And and so
it's brutal out here too. I know that when I went to the gas station a few days ago, I filled up at 3.79, and
yeah,
diesel was at 5.40 something.
it's insane. It's insane. It's absolutely bananas to me. And I just don't understand. My biggest problem right now, and one of the big questions that people keep asking, they're like, where's Congress? I'm like, that's a great question.
That's
Because
fantastic.
I don't really know what they're doing. And the Democrats were like, oh, well, we're in the minority. And I was like, so? You could still do something.
Right?
Instead of just complain. And Cory Booker's out there like complaining about ICE being at TSA while he's in an Uber to Newark on his book tour. And I'm like, well, what are you doing about it besides selling books and enriching your own wallet? Like, this is absurd. Right. What are you actually doing? And, going back to kind of what you said earlier, politicians versus representatives. I was speaking to someone the other day who was a Spanish speaker, and they asked me what I did. And I was like, and I had to pause for a second. And I'm like, soy una política. And I'm like, ugh, I hate that. I'm like, I hate calling myself a politician.
Because you're not.
I'm not a politician. I'm technically a politician right now, but that's not what I am. Like, I don't do that.
No. But that's why I use the difference, because we have representatives who are there for the constituents, which is what I would call you, a representative, because you are there for the constituents. Then we have the politicians who are not there for the constituents. That is literally the difference. And so it's one of those, you're not a politician. You might be classified as one as a job, but you're not one. You're a representative. That is what you are. And that is what we want and what we need. I know PJ was going, I like this one. If I was in Kentucky, I'd vote for you on energy views alone. Understand from him, that is really a compliment.
Well, I'm a progressive Democrat, so hey, dude. See, you'd be shocked. And people look at Kentucky and they're like, there's no way a progressive can win here. And I'm like, actually, I don't follow talking points from the DNC. I focus on what people actually need and what people actually want. Like 75% of Democrats have polled want Medicare for all. 47% of Republicans want it. And like 68%, I think, of, I can't remember the exact number, it was in the 60s, of independents want it. I'm like, so this is a majority of people want Medicare for all. And some people are like, oh, well, maybe just like a single payer option. Like, I don't know, maybe so. And I was like, they're like, well, what about the people in insurance companies who are going to lose their job? I'm like, well, we could put them through nursing school. We can put them through tech school. They can do jobs, like they can work for Medicare.
They already know how to do insurance coding. They can just go work for Medicare.
Medicare, exactly. Did you know that the majority of people who work in healthcare work in billing?
Yeah.
Stupid.
It's like about 70% of the people who work in healthcare, the industry, don't actually work in the healthcare part of it. They do paper. They're pencil pushers. That's what they are. Is they just sit there and they do the billing and the coding and write out documents, and they don't actually do the hands-on portion of it.
Yeah, and all of those people could then be moved to be trained up to actually be skilled to service patients. We could provide better care. We could provide more care to rural populations, because a lot of those people also work remotely and in rural areas. They could be moved to hospitals. They could be moved to clinics.
Thing. It really is. Like, when you just have an evaluation, you don't have to go in for a physical test, just having a conversation, telehealth, 5 minutes. That's what I got to do for my daughter for her ADHD. We have to have a telehealth conference first. Fantastic. I don't have to drive an hour for a 5-minute conversation. That's great. Thank you.
No. And I just think that it's, I think that one of the biggest challenges is that people get so stuck on this, but we would have to break down X, Y, and Z systems. And I'm like, wait. These systems haven't always been there. They were created and got worse because of the system that we have and the laws that we passed and the politicians who are currently in office. Yeah. We can change these things. I like to tell people, I was like, at one point in our history, you know, people were bought and sold as commodities, and people thought that, well, that's just the way it is. That's, you know, all the rich people have slaves and that's how they make all their money. Yeah, we fought a war over it, but people got sick of it and it changed. You know, I mean, women couldn't wear pants in public. You know, but people
don't show your ankle
or vote.
Right.
Women couldn't have a credit card without their husband until the 70s or 80s. They couldn't have a bank account on their own.
Right. You know, they couldn't own property unless they inherited it from their husband or their father, and they were the only child. And then even then, they were taken advantage of to have the land stripped away from them because women shouldn't own land.
And so I'm like, people get sick of these things and they change, right? And yeah, of course, like, oh no, like, well, but wouldn't that take, like, you know, men away from, yeah, I know, I am a witch. And so I'm like, I'm burn some sage later. But no, it's people saying, oh, it would be too hard to change. If those people are running for office, do not vote for them. If they say it's too hard to do, tell them to go fuck themselves, honestly, because like they don't actually want to do the job. They want some cushy thing where they're not going to rock the boat. We need boat rockers. We need status quo breakers. We need reformers. People say, oh, well, you can't reform. I was like, well, reform doesn't just mean like take this and fix it. It means like you can change it completely. You know, it's kind of like with when I talk about ICE, I'm like, no, we need to get rid of it and redo our immigration system because ICE has lost all trustworthiness. You know, I agree. Let's burn it all to the ground. I'm
one of those where I very much, and PJ knows this, raise it all, burn it all to the ground, start over.
Yeah,
if that's what we have to do, if that's what we have to do. What I would love to do is be able to take what we have and fix it, because, you know, the base bone structure of it's actually still pretty good. It's just there's a lot of issues that need to be fixed.
Well, it depends on the system you're talking about, right? So I think that, you know, you look at it this way, right? Like I'll use my car as an example. Or no, like actually, let me use the show. Love It or List It. Okay. So if anybody's ever seen the show Love It or List It, the whole premise is these people have a house and they're tired of their house. And so they have one person who comes in and they redo the house to try to make it something that fits their needs. And then the other one's the realtor who shows them other houses in their price range. Sometimes they go above their price range, but it ends up being what they need. And so they either say, yes, I can live with this house and I'm going to love it because you've changed it and you've altered it to be a place that I can actually use. But then sometimes you just need to sell that house and get something new. It doesn't serve you anymore. It doesn't serve that season of your life anymore. It doesn't serve what you need. Sometimes you got to love it, change it, and love it. And sometimes you got to list it. Okay. Like, and we're at the point where we got to list a lot of stuff. Like it's healthcare, housing, education, our wage system. Like we got to list this stuff.
That's some of the stuff where absolutely we have to just raise it and start over. Raise it and start
our criminal justice system. We got to get for-profit prisons out of this situation.
Sounds like a TLC show. I'd watch it.
It is a TLC show.
It is a good show too.
Or maybe HGTV. I can't remember, but it's like TLC or HGTV. Yeah.
It could be either one or both for all we know. Well, and I'll bring up the Epstein files because this is a good, you know, hold them.
God, yeah.
Because my personal opinion is hold everybody in the Epstein files accountable, and then we start over with what we have. So when we get done, we have one person left that's not in there that could actually assume the presidency. Well, that person's now president because of the highest ranked one. Congratulations.
Listen, otherwise, if other countries can take out people and, prosecute them for crimes, remove them from office and put them in jail.
Yep.
Like, why aren't we doing that? We're like the only country not doing that. Everywhere else is taking it seriously. But we're like, nah. And honestly, Bill and Hillary Clinton need to go to jail. Fine. I don't really care. People are like, what if they're Democrats? I'm like, I don't care if they're all Democrats. Put them in jail.
I don't care what party they belong to. I don't care who they are. I don't care what their royalty. Prince Andrew is a perfect example. He's not a prince anymore. His own brother arrested him and put him on trial. His own brother arrested him, took away his title, and put him on trial.
Yup.
If the King of England can do that to his brother, why can't we do that to the candidates or the representatives or the politicians or whatever we have here?
I agree. And so it's just absurd to me. I mean, the Epstein files, I just get pissed off because, I mean, that's what, Trump was like, yeah, day one, I'm going to release, JFK. I'm going to release aliens, and I'm also going to release the Epstein files. And then he's like, oh, crap, I'm in the Epstein files.
Mm-hmm.
But also, he hasn't released any of that stuff. He hasn't done any of it. He could have done a great job and done that. I'm saying a great job at fulfilling that campaign promise, not a great job at other things. Let me just be clear.
If he would have just actually fulfilled some of his campaign promises, we would be in a much better place than we are right now.
Yep.
And believe it or not, that's all the people just want is like, okay, you said no more new wars. Why are we in Iran? You said
or Venezuela, or looking at Greenland, or maybe in Cuba.
Yeah. Why are we doing that? Why are we talking about making Canada the 51st state when they do not want that? Trust me.
When DC should be the 51st state.
Exactly. So it's one of those, like, if he would have followed through with his campaign promises, I don't think as many people would have the issues we have. But one after another, he's just shown, well, he does not care. He's a liar, and he's just going to do whatever the hell he wants, because he's quite literally said international law does not apply to him. He will stop when his morals tell him to.
He doesn't have any morals. That's the thing, is he's devoid of morals. And it's
exactly.
Somebody told me, I think it was my mom actually. She was like, he's too mean to die. And I'm like,
unfortunately, I think, no, he's one of those cranky old bastards that's just going to keep holding on as long as he can.
Yeah, Petrey's like, but DC has been asking for statehood since the 80s at least. I actually testified at the 2016 DC Constitutional Convention when I lived there. And I was in a documentary about it. And, I remember that both Clinton and Trump said that they would both approve DC statehood if brought to their desks, that they would push it through. And what happened? Nothing.
Yep.
Nothing.
That sucks. I mean, realistically, that should be our 51st state. And so we have to ask, why is it not?
Because it's majority Black and it's Democrat.
Exactly.
It would add 2 Democrats to the Senate and an actual voting member to the House who would also be a Democrat.
So 3 people?
Yep. Well, sometimes that's what you need in order to actually make something get passed, right? Sometimes the margin, I mean, look at Fetterman, right? Fetterman was the one turncoat who pushed Markwayne Mullin in. And so, which, we should, that guy needs to get out of office immediately. Right. What a trash bag. I'm not talking about his wardrobe. And it's like, I don't know, maybe he's wearing the new Balenciaga collection and I just didn't know. Who knows?
Who knows?
Yeah. So I don't know. It's the Epstein files, come on, it's stupid that we're at this point.
And the fact that they've redacted all the names. So it's basically, well, any name in there as out of 5 or 6 people, it's all redacted because it's ongoing investigation. Really?
What's so funny, PJ, is that there's some of the things that people have said to me about why DC shouldn't become a state. And they're like, but we'd have to reprint all the flags. I was like, are you serious? That's your worry? I was like, we've done that multiple times, when Hawaii became a state, when Alaska became a state, that's good for the flag makers. Who cares? Right. Yeah. Also, but the Dakotas, not that many people live there.
You're not wrong, because most of it is badlands and desert where it's not habitable.
Yeah. So, I mean, more people live in DC than do in Rhode Island or Wyoming. Is it Rhode Island or is it, no, Vermont and Wyoming? Yeah.
It probably would be Rhode Island as well, because Rhode Island is just teeny tiny.
Oh, yeah, it's really tiny. But I'm just y'all, come on, that's the stupidest argument I've ever heard. oh, let's make sure that 800,000 people can't vote or have control over their own city's budget of like a lot of money just because we don't want to put an extra star on the flag.
That's
Give me
ridiculous.
a break. Give me a break. You're like, but 50 is such a nice number. I was like, so like
51 and 52 and 60 and your point. Hey, let's
like
get
what happened with like 45? If they were like 45 states and you're like, well, what happened 46? We're so for like, who cares?
Let's get up to 69. Why? Just
Yeah, because nice. What's here? Guam, American Samoa, DC, Puerto Rico, Greenland.
Canada.
Canada. Well, we could have every province in Canada be its own, right?
Yeah, be its own state, and we would easily hit 69 after a while.
Actually, it's funny. There's a wine bar I go to sometimes, and she has like 20%, 25%, and she was like, I don't want to put 30%. That's gauche. And she's like, I'm not going to put 18% because screw that. So she just put 69%. I was like, how many times do people do that? And she's like, honestly, more often than you think, because they're like, nice. Here's a $7 tip on one glass of wine or 2 glasses of wine.
To at least 20 states, to be honest. Exactly. Like we could, all we have to do is get Canada and divvy it up, 18 places, make DC a state, and then we're at 69.
It's so stupid. I'm like, really? You're just mad about the number of stars on the flag? Okay.
Right.
Anyways.
So if you could snap your fingers and make one thing law today in Kentucky, what would it be?
Oh God, in Kentucky?
In your state. If you could make one thing law today or tomorrow, snap your fingers, and as of midnight, it's law.
That abortion is legal?
Okay, I'm right there with you on that one, sweetheart.
Because there are people who are getting arrested for having miscarriages.
I'm aware. It's
and
terrifying.
It's really, this is like some Handmaid's Tale kind of stuff. And like, people are getting arrested for miscarriages and people are dying because of this. And, I know there's a lot more that I could do, right? Like, we could like increase the minimum wage or whatever. But like, to be honest with you, this is just absurd.
When it comes to the point where, like it or not, pro-life kills. Because it's not pro-life, it's forced birth. Because here's the thing, if it was truly pro-life, you would care about the life of the mother over the life of the fetus.
Well, also here in this country, we have worse infant and maternal mortality than in Canada. Yep. And then in a lot of other countries. So it is forced birth.
One of the worst infant and maternal mortality rates in the developed countries. So in all the first world countries, we rank last. That's terrifying. That we have that in, to the point where other countries, because of what we've done, have actually made sure that abortion is a constitutional right. Why? To make sure women don't die. Because that's you have to understand, the vast majority of women don't want to get rid of their pregnancies. A lot of times the reason why they do is because they're non-viable, or if they continue the pregnancy, it will kill the mom.
Yeah, and it's a lot of times people have abortions because they actually are trying to get pregnant. And it is non-viable and it will hurt them and their chances of actually conceiving a healthy fetus later if they do not get an abortion at that time. And so there are many mothers who like I've spoken to who are like, I was able to have my child because I had an abortion. Yep. And that's the thing, is that people are like, oh, well, I know. And it's this whole absolute by anecdote. And they're like, well, I know this one person who got tons of abortions. And I was like, A, I doubt that. B, that is like the super outlier. And you probably don't want that person becoming a mom anyways.
My Aunt Sandra, I'm going to use my Aunt Sandra because she's the type of person that they're talking about. Okay. My Aunt Sandra had 4 abortions. She went in to get another abortion. She was pregnant with my cousin Andrew. They told her if she got an abortion, she'd never be able to conceive and carry to term. So if she wanted a child, she needed to go through. She needed to have that pregnancy.
Wow.
Now, mind you, that was somebody where he wouldn't use condoms and he refused to let her be on birth control. He was that controlling. That she couldn't be on birth control to stop it back in the 80s or 90s because he didn't want her to. And she understand, back in the 80s and 90s, if you were married, you had to have your husband's permission and approval to be put on birth control.
And see, once again, this goes back to that whole like thing.
Well,
But I will tell you, if
the millennia, that changed back in the early 2000s.
So I will tell you though that if I could snap my fingers and change something nationally, like federal legislation, it would be banning corporate money from politics. So because that would actually solve so many problems.
It would. I wager it would root out somewhere between 60 and 65% of the corruption that we are dealing with right now.
I think even more, frankly.
Probably more. I'm not being generous with my assumption or my numbers right now. I'm actually dialing it back. I think it'd be closer to about 80-85%. But it's one of those like, but there's still so much corruption in there that it's hard to tell if it's just all money driven or if there's other things behind it too.
Oh yeah, for sure. And there is, but a lot of it's like because they're getting money from it, and it's really dirty. And you've seen our system collapse so much more rapidly after Citizens United. So, which if you don't know the origins of Citizens United, you're going to get really pissed off because it was all about a documentary about Hillary Clinton.
Yep.
So stupid.
Yep. So yeah, Yep. So let's go on. We'll talk about, okay. Kentucky has one of the highest national poverty levels or rates.
Yes.
And, it has one of the lowest wages with the higher cost of living. So the gap is one of the largest in the nation.
So in Kentucky, we are still one of a handful of states. Well, I think about 13 states that still has the federal minimum wage of $7.25 an hour, which has been the minimum wage since 2009, and it has not been increased. Now that is similar to, that is the equivalent of $11 if inflation adjusted. And it's really messed up, right? And so we have huge poverty wages because for a lot of reasons, honestly, and it has nothing to do with coal. It has literally nothing to do with coal. It has everything to do with the fact that if you look at our legislative team here, our delegation, Mitch McConnell was in office before I was born. Hal Rogers was in before I was born. Brett Guthrie's been there for a long time. Jim Comer's actually fairly new, but he's like more of the same. We have some of the longest serving politicians here, and they have created this good old boys club that has created this huge, we've also seen, I will tell you, and this is why I'm so supportive of Medicare for all, not just because of the human rights standpoint, but because all of these small towns and rural areas, we could absolutely revitalize small town America if we pass Medicare for all, because that would allow small businesses and entrepreneurs to actually have lower barriers to doing that. And so we have a huge brain drain here. We're very low when it comes to education. We're at the bottom when it comes to starting teacher pay and support staff pay. We're 48th and 49th respectively. But we have had a huge increase in investment with Governor Beshear. I will give him, term limits. I've already signed multiple pledges to pass that. But I think the money is more important than term limits, to be honest with you, because I don't think that Mitch McConnell would be in office as long as he was without the corporate money. But there's a lot that goes on there, right? And Kentucky is one of those areas in which it has been, people across the country, they're like, oh, Kentucky, like, why should we care about a race in Kentucky? I'm like, name 3 politicians from Kentucky. Mitch McConnell, Rand Paul, and Thomas Massey are in the news literally constantly.
Yeah. And I want to say, wasn't Mitch McConnell in Indiana at some point?
Probably. What do you mean in Indiana? Like, did he visit or?
No, he had a position in Indiana.
It would have been the 70s.
Because I strongly remember them talking about him and how he helped to kind of start what was going on in Indiana with the Republicans taking over and the downhill, just slow downhill tumble we've taken.
It was probably because of, his role as a Republican leader. But he has literally he's been in office since 1985. Hal Rogers has been in since 1983.
Okay.
And so I just don't, it's infuriating to me. But you know, it's kind of a
And I'll
perfect
say for as
storm.
long as I've been alive, because I was
Yeah.
born in '84, and that's terrifying.
Like there was some lady
Yeah.
just like being weekend at Bernie's, and
Yeah.
like her aides would vote for her.
Her aides would vote for her.
Yeah, basically she was like being wheeled around and
Oh, God.
like a weekend at Bernie's kind of deal.
Gotcha.
Wait, who is this?
So Dan was talking about, he heard something about an old lady. She was basically being wheeled around like a weekend at Bernie's sort of thing.
Oh, gross.
Where her aides were going and voting for her.
They say Mitch McConnell's in the hospital right now, not doing well. Hal Rogers was not seen in public for a really long time. People were like, is he dead? Like, are we weekend at Bernie's him? And it's absurd.
It is. Until they finally make an appearance. It's like, well, where have you been for the last 6 months, my dude? Like, are you okay?
Yeah. It's absurd, and it's really pisses everybody off here. And so it's oh God. But you know, it's a lot of those things. It's the concentration of power. It's the and I think it's just the fact that we haven't had a lot of investment. I think that Andy Bashir's done a really good job with bringing in investment and jobs. But the education thing is one of the things that we have to fix, right? Our teachers aren't paid enough, and we have to do that. And we have, you know, really, and we were also one of the worst hit by the opioid epidemic.
Yep. That was, and I have that on there with, along with the healthcare, public healthcare, rural areas, and then, like you said, the Medicare for all, because I keep hearing from a lot of politicians, they wanted to do it like a TRICARE Prime, use the VA system as, you know, a single payer, do this, do that.
By the way,
Like,
TRICARE is shit. Like,
they wanted to use that as like a template, a blueprint to based off of, because understand, we don't have a lot of, you know, single payer systems like that where I'm open to anybody's idea. Because
Feinstein was her name.
Feinstein was her name.
oh, Dianne Feinstein. Yeah, fuck that. Yeah, I think there should be age limits. I really do.
Yep.
She was 90.
She was 90.
No, go home.
Yeah. Honestly, I'm sorry. Once you become an octogenarian, I think you should be out of politics.
Well, I think that if you hit retirement age, you should retire.
Yeah. Well, but then again, they're trying to push retirement age. So,
Still.
yeah. By the time you hit your 65, 70, I think you should be out of politics. Why? Because you've had your good 30, 40 years in it. Let the next generation take over. Let us, who,
Also,
you know, the Gen X, Millennials, Gen Z, let us take over. It's our turn.
Yeah, it's like don't put your 1970s ideas into my 2026 world.
You know, it's, why? I know you were born in the 1950s, but why do you want to take us back to 1920? Like,
Yeah.
do you really think your mom's life was better? Because I promise it wasn't. I remember my grandma and her stories.
Well,
No.
let me tell you a story though about that a lot of people like to, speaking of, you know, so the 50s and 60s, a lot of like people, especially like these like, you know, right wing, you know, white nationalists are like, they look at the 50s and 60s mostly because they're like, oh, women were subservient, we're at home. But, you know, one of the things that people don't realize is that the 50s and 60s had that sort of like idyllic situation everywhere, you know, people could actually afford things like cars and, you know, houses. That's because of socialism, because of the New Deal. That is all because of the infrastructure and jobs that came out of the kind of perfect storm of the military, like, you know, everybody infusing things into the economy because of the military, and then also the long-term impacts of the New Deal. And so it's like, actually, that was socialism.
Well, that's another thing where so many people are afraid of the word socialism or socialist because they immediately think it's
Stupid.
bad. And it's like,
It's not the same as communism. It's like, do you like roads? Do you like fire department?
I'm like, so those roads that you drive on, those highways, those state roads that they're building and they're improving. I said, you like those, right? Because that's a socialist program. Cops, you like being able to call 911 and have emergency services come to you if you need them, right? Well, that's a socialist program. You know, how about public transportation, riding the bus when, you know, like Chicago, New York, LA, that's a socialist program. Oh, subways. Let's say you're in New York and you ride the subways. Again, that's a socialist program. Trains, How about if you took a nice, luxurious train ride from California all the way through the Rockies and it goes through the Midwest and you end up in Indianapolis? Guess what? That's a socialist system as well. They're all socialist systems. Socialism is not a bad thing. They just make it seem like a bad thing to fearmonger.
Well, and so here's the other thing too, is Patrice mentioned like, tax on the rich, is that in 1980, the wealthiest people were taxed at 70%. Now they are taxed at 37%.
Yep.
That's half.
Yep.
And there are more loopholes.
Yep.
And so it's really absurd that we have gotten to this. And so, because a lot of that is because of that whole trickle down economics, that supply side economics, the Reaganomics, which has contributed long term to this K-shaped economy, right? We have to look back to the 80s and Reagan's policies, which reduced taxes on the rich, this whole trickle down concept. It's like, actually, if you try to give people at the top more money, you know what they're going to do? They're going to keep it. Yeah. Because the best way to get really rich is to have money.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's to have money. But if you increase wages for everyone, which is why part of my platform is making sure we institute a living wage. So we increase the federal minimum wage to $15 and then have a 10-year step period where it actually goes up to a living wage. And I'm like, that actually will buoy the economy. That will make more consumers, more people have more money to actually spend. And so that is why, because if you just continue to siphon off money into non-productive ways, which is what's happening right now, especially with crypto and AI, those are non-productive. Same thing with billing in hospitals. It's non-productive. It's only profit driven.
Yep.
It doesn't actually help people or create wealth. It only concentrates wealth. And so, people who are super rich are going to keep their money. Whereas people who are not super rich are going to struggle and continue to struggle. And that's why we're continuing to have this more and more K-shape.
Whereas if you want the economy to stabilize, you actually pay your people the money because your people are the ones who are going to go out and purchase the items that actually increase your profit. So wouldn't it go ahead.
No, go ahead.
As I say, so wouldn't it make sense? And mind you, I'm a business owner. To make sure that your people are paid a more than adequate wage. So not only do they work for you, they actually want to work for you rather than quietly quitting and doing the bare minimum.
Or actually quitting and doing nothing. Well, so, two things, right? Is that one is that, so stimulus checks are something that Republicans like to use, actually. I remember getting my stimulus check when George Bush was president. And it's but what if our salaries were our stimulus checks, right? And we earned it. Isn't that what every Republican wants, is for people to pull themselves up by their bootstraps? But you can't pull yourselves up by your bootstraps if you can't afford goddamn boots. It's so if you actually give people wages, you don't need to give them these stupid little $500, $1,200 checks, and then they're going to spend it on TVs. And then you're going to see a little blip in the economy. And then what's going to happen? It's going to go right back down. Yep. Instead, you could increase wages and then the economy would continue to do that as well. But instead of it just being actually just the top of the people, because one of the things that Donald Trump loves to talk about is how much the stock market has gone up, but the stock market is not actually the economy and they have nothing to do with each other. Right. Literally nothing to do with each other. The stock market crash can hurt the economy, obviously, because that's a huge outflow of wealth. But increases in the stock market actually mean nothing for the broader economy.
The socioeconomic platform.
Yeah. Well, now doctors essentially work for Patrice. Doctors pretty much work for insurance companies. They don't work for themselves. They don't work for your patients. They work for the hospital. Everybody works for the insurance companies. And that's fucked up.
Yep. It is. No, it's one of those, they don't work for their patients anymore. They, there's a lot of times
I have to respond.
When she comes back, yes, it is. Yep. So I'll use the VA as a perfect example because the VA is no longer covering massages for their clients. So
that's really unfortunate.
I have a lot of patients that instead of covering massage, which actually helps them, they're now being referred to a pain management clinic, which just wants to put them on pills.
That's a pharmaceutical issue. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm aware because here's the thing. Massage, when done by somebody who's licensed and knows what they're doing, actually helps to heal your body from the inside out. So you don't need those pain medications. So you don't need those extra things, the opioids, all that coming in, because you're able to manage your pain without it. So you can live a good quality life without taking all the pills, which is what people want. But that's not what pharmaceutical companies want. So massage and chiropractic care is no longer covered by a majority of health insurance companies as of the first of this year, United Healthcare and Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield being two of them. Thank you for the heart me Berg. So again, I have a lot of clients where they're coming in, they're saying their health insurance company is not covering it anymore because it's considered holistic medical care and not factual medical care. So it's not scientific and they're not going to cover it, despite the fact that it is the oldest profession that's known to man, because we have documents dating back to 21,000 BC in Egypt, talking about how they had people using their hands to heal the pharaohs from their bodily, injuries, their sicknesses, all those things. And then we have stuff from 16,000 BC in Japan and China, once again, talking about people using their hands to heal and using various tools that we still use today.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a lot that goes into that, right? And it's like, so number one, I'm very pro legalizing cannabis. And also, I mean, let's just be honest. Like, so I have Crohn's disease and it almost killed me a few years ago. And, I was sent home with a temporary ostomy. I had a PICC line in my heart where I had to give myself, push antibiotics into my bloodstream 4 times a day. Like I had a splenic drain. I had sepsis. It was terrible. And I was in so much pain and, they gave me Oxy. I took it like once and I hated it. And then I just medicated with medical cannabis because thankfully at the time I lived in DC and cannabis was really easy to get. And I had a prescription, or I didn't have a prescription, I had a medical card. And so I could get everything. And it was great. And it helped me with my appetite. It helped me with my pain. It helped me with my sleep. It helped me with my anxiety. Like it was everything to me. And I avoided potentially becoming addicted to freaking opioids because of that. And people are like, that's a wild thing to say. And I'm like, no, that's how I view it. Because if I didn't have access to cannabis, I would have been reliant on opioids.
Yep.
And so, yeah.
For me, at one point in time, now mind you, I am on 11 prescription medications now and 1 as needed. At one point in time, I was on 25 prescription medications. And
that's too many.
Yeah. While we were trying to figure out what was wrong with my body and treating the symptoms.
Oh, I get you.
While we were digging deep and trying to figure out the root cause, which turned out to be fibromyalgia, psoriatic arthritis, osteospinal stenosis, spinal column narrowing, spinal bulges, hyperlordosis, hyperkyphosis, lateral culmination scoliosis. So I twist and I twist and I twist and I twist. So from here to here, I have so many issues, but the big thing is the fibro. It's the muscle fiber pain that never goes away no matter what I do. And mind you, I spent 4 years in physical therapy. I'm on gabapentin. I'm on this. I'm on that. The one thing that helped the most, and I still do it today. Yeah, we go to Illinois every 6 to 8 weeks for me to stock up. Why? Because it's the only thing that helps to keep me off of those extra medications so I can sleep at night. There are some days, especially during the winter, I do have to medicate myself. So, but those are the worst days where it's like, okay, I had trouble sleeping last night. I can barely stand up and walk. My entire body's twisted. I need something to help with the pain so I can at least lay back and be able to take a big deep breath and use my foam roller so that I'm not in pain. So it's one of those, like, having it be illegal. I understand why they did it. They should have. It was, it's the gateway drug and war on drugs. No, it's not. Believe it or not, I have no desire to do anything else. I just want to be able to have my conversation with Bluto every night before I go to bed. That's all I want, because then I can sleep. And then I'm a happy person the next day. And, my bipolar manic depression doesn't flare up and my depression doesn't flare up and all these things don't flare up. I'm just stable. And that's all I take.
Yeah, no, it's really absurd. I think that, also remember, like, you had rich people doing so much cocaine and heroin in like the 1800s and the early 1900s. I'm like, I don't think I'm supposed to say these words on like TikTok, but that's history, whatever. But it's like, and I get why those were made illegal, right? Like I get it.
Absolutely.
But like cannabis is totally different.
No, it is. I understand heroin's illegal and this is illegal. A lot of those things, because they are super addictive, and like it or not, you can OD and die on it. If you OD on weed, you're just gonna fall asleep and get the munchies really, really fucking.
You're like, or you're gonna eat a whole pizza. Like there's like multiple things that you could happen, right? It's like there's a lot of things.
It's gonna be something. It's either sometimes you're gonna have a really bad trip. That doesn't happen very often, or you're gonna have extreme munchies, or you're just gonna pass out. Pretty much what's
Well,
going on.
it's also funny because like I've never seen anyone like smoke too much weed or like have too much cannabis and like get into a fight. Meanwhile, you can go and buy a pint of vodka or whiskey, and then, oh my God, like somebody's getting shot. Somebody's getting punched in the face. Someone's going to get in a car and murder someone. That's what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm. And it's all about, believe it or not, it's all about how those two things, how the chemicals interact with the brain. The cannabis, it's a soothing. It doesn't trigger the anger reflex. It doesn't trigger this. It doesn't trigger that. Whereas alcohol triggers those. It amps up your emotions. It makes you more volatile, so you're more likely to fight. Whereas cannabis, nah, man, let's just turn on a movie. Like, let's just chill. Do we have to? I don't want to fight. Man, can we just not talk right now?
Yeah, it's absurd. So I'm like, I do need to go in about 10 minutes. So yes.
No, absolutely. So, and then I'll just have you on again because I have a lot we can talk about.
This is fun. I like this. It's fun. Yeah, I like talking to people.
This is what I love to do is I like to have the conversations and get to know the person we're voting for. Like PJ earlier, by just your viewpoint on data alone, he would vote for you. And now by the time he's done hearing you for 90 minutes, he's like, okay, yeah, no, if he were in Kentucky, he'd be like, vote for this woman, vote for her. She knows what she's talking about. But that's exactly it. It's not just about finding people in your specific state. It's about finding people over who can then pass on your message. Because, PJ, we're going up to 90 minutes soon. It'll be 90 minutes at 10 o'clock.
Yep.
Yeah, I know, but that's just it. It goes by so fast because we're having a really good conversation. We're talking about things that are really important. I'm learning new things. You used to live in your district? Well, that's awesome, Ender.
Oh, hey, Versailles. I love Versailles. Yeah.
So like I'm learning more about data centers because that's something I've only recently started looking into and finding out more about, and having worked with them and knowing more. Oh yes, please tell me more. Knowing more about the nuclear, please tell me more because, okay, I'll be the first to admit, I'm ignorant on some things. I'm not the fully educated. I'm educating myself, believe me. I have a tablet right here just in case we needed to Google anything.
I got my computer, so.
Exactly. But I'm one of those like, please, if I don't have the knowledge, give me the knowledge. Let me know. Also,
me too.
Everything, because the more I talk to people, the more I find out it's a systemic. It's not just one state. All the states are saying the same exact issues. We have the same exact crises. Why do we have the same exact crises in every state? Why is housing an issue in every state? Why is wages an issue in every state? Why is ICE an issue in every state? Why is this an issue in every state? They shouldn't be, but they are, because the way that unfortunately our government has failed us over the last 50 years has become very apparent over the last 5.
Yep, that's it. 100%. I agree.
Nerds love learning. That's why we're all nerds. But yeah, like housing for you. So I was looking into like the average house value is about $224,000. In the last year, you had a 2.7 increase in the housing prices. But you've also had in the last year a 5,800 new cases, quote unquote, of homelessness. And I use quote unquote because they didn't specify if they were individuals or families, just cases.
Yeah.
So for all we know, one of those cases could have been a family of 6 that's now homeless.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's a problem. Where in the last year, especially with them criminalizing homelessness.
So so one of the things in Kentucky and a lot of places in the South or like more like formerly affordable areas during COVID, a lot of people had an exodus from New York, Chicago, DC, San Francisco, who moved here. That really jacked housing prices up. So that was a big problem. But we also have challenges with housing density as well as affordable housing. And so there are zoning issues that are at stake. There are loan issues at stake. There's also kind of the broader economic climate. So that's just, people are getting squeezed tighter and tighter. And so people are being forced to choose between their health insurance and their rent. And a lot of people are going without their health insurance. After the subsidies expired, 40,000 people chose to go off of their Kentucky ACA plans. 40,000 people. And, I do a lot of work with homeless folks here. I went out for the homeless count in Lexington that we did, where essentially we go and we check on folks that are known, homeless people, and make sure, they're okay. We drop supplies. Excuse me. Try to get more data on how they got there. But one of the big issues, and I met with the chief of police. Oh shoot, I needed to email him. The chief of police in Lexington yesterday, and I really like Chief Weathers. He's fantastic. He's been on the force since 1989. He's an African-American gentleman. He's very soft-spoken. He's very he's a great guy. People will complain and say, "Oh, there's so much crime in Lexington." There's not. There just isn't. But I asked him, I was like, "So, what is the number one cause of crime here?" And he said, honestly, Erin, it's mental health. We don't have enough mental health support. And that goes into our whole failure of our healthcare system. So one of the things that I don't like to talk about, or that I don't like to talk about, is when you talk about issues in a silo, everything is webbed together, right? It's like you can't talk about housing without talking about wages, without talking about healthcare, without talking about mental health, without talking about education, without talking about substance abuse. It's all together. It's this crazy web.
Yes.
And so we have to increase wages. We have to provide better medical care, but we also have to provide mental health care. We're not investing in mental health care in this country. I'll tell you, I've tried to find therapists before, in different parts of my life. And oh my God, it's impossible.
A therapist for him, and especially one through his work, because that'll be paid for. Nope. It's almost a year later, and he's still trying to get a call back from somebody. And that the one thing that really bothers me is something I've seen is we don't talk about men's mental health enough. We don't invest in men's mental health enough.
No.
The issue, one of the huge cruxes in this country is genuinely men's mental health. I have watched men my entire life be taught to force it down, to not express their emotions, to hold it all in. But then they become violent, explosive, angry, aggressive people as adults.
Yeah.
And they don't know how to undo it. Instead, they blame everybody else for all their shortcomings, when in reality, it's tied back to the fact that since they were a small child, they have been told it's not okay for them to have emotions.
Well, it's toxic masculinity, and it's also the MAGA movement has really fueled that. Being like, oh, you're snowflakes, oh, you're woke, you like your feelings, don't hurt your feelings. It's it has nothing to do with feelings. It has everything to do with empathy and humanity. And so, there's this, a lot of this white Christian nationalism is fueled by incels. And Turning Point USA, and also Americans for Prosperity, that is really active in my friggin' district, they're well funded, but they are all trying to prey on young white men who feel like they don't have a place because they can't make something happen. And they're like, well, you're telling me it's the woke libs, it's the black people, it's the Arabs, it's the Islams, it's the Jews. And it's no, it's not. But it's easier for people to point to an enemy and say, oh, it's not me. Oh, it's them. They're the enemy. And they create this army and they brainwash them into being like, oh yeah, you feel insecure. It's not you. It's these woke ass purple haired septum ring libs. That's what it is. But it's not, when really it's well, let's talk about it. Why do you think that you can't get a job? Did you not get the right training? Let's find something for you. Let's help you build community, because there's an epidemic of loneliness among a lot of these young white men too. And, a lot of them, had that comeuppance during the pandemic, and they either lost their friends, or it's this kind of moving into a digital world, and they either don't know how to form social relationships or even parasocial relationships. And there's no real outlet for those folks. And I actually have a friend who's working on something that's a counter to Turning Point. and AFP, but it's like focused on like Catholicism. So it's for like all these people who like, grew up in the Catholic Church and like went to Catholic school. And he's like, well, and then when they get to school, like they lose that kind of fellowship. And so he's like creating these things on campuses to be like, hey, instead of joining Turning Point, why don't you join us? And we can be like, let's do good things together. Like, listen, this is not me talking about Catholicism because every religion has its own challenges. But, I'm like, this is a great kind of thing that people can find that community and that continuity. A lot of times people go to college and they lack how to figure out that continuity. And TPUSA and AFP just like pick them up.
Yep. And yeah, PJ's going lonely male here. And
it's true.
Renee,
it's hard.
He goes, hi, that's me. And just saying nobody wants to hold themselves accountable. And that is honestly, that's part of it, is the accountability portion, is being willing to hold yourself accountable for your own actions, choices, for your faults, for your flaws, and for your deficits, as well as for your strengths. You have to hold yourself accountable, saying, okay, this is me, for better, for worse. What am I going to do to be a better version of me tomorrow? Because if I do, then that is going to be the person that everybody wants to be friends with, because I show that I'm an empathetic person. I'm compassionate. I care. I'm honest. I'm loyal. I'm all these things, because I've shown that I am by my actions, by my words, not just, saying, oh, well, yeah, I'm all those things, because I get a lot of, I'm nice. I'm a nice guy. Well, honestly, sweetheart, if you have to sit there and tell me how nice you are, you're probably not.
But I think that one of the things that does give me some hope is how, at least in the zeitgeist, a lot of those sort of like softer males are starting to get like, that like rave celebrity. So we're talking your Harry Styles, your Pedro Pascal, Joe Mangliocco with his little tiny Chihuahua bubbles. Like, oh my gosh. Like, those are the kind of things that I think that, we're all starting to like really say, like, instead of like, oh, big tough guy, like we're like, oh, they love a little doggy, or like, oh my gosh, Bad Bunny wore a dress. Like, we're like, hilarious. He doesn't care. Right. And so
training teaches a lot of skills.
I don't know what resilience training is, but I will look it up later. But I think that a lot of those like other kind of the other side don't have, it's like guns and tits and whatever, right? Like that's what people are like, oh, you're going to do this like toxic masculinity, and still trying to like hold on to that. Whereas like we're seeing this cultural shift to like, the people who love like the Bad Bunny, the Pedro Pascal, the Harry Styles, versus like the people who are like, also, I don't know like why they like Kid Rock because he's gross, but like Jake Paul, you're like, ew, he's disgusting.
Yeah, no, those are perfect examples of the toxic masculinity that we're trying to get away from, because we as women, believe it or not, guys, don't actually want that. Here's the thing is, the only people who want that are other men. Let's be honest about this. With the whole,
like, who are you performing for?
The only people you're performing for is other men. Because most women, we look at them and we're like, cool, good for you. I'm going to choose that guy over there who's actually going to treat me like a queen and be less concerned about his own ego.
Yeah.
And wanting to make a relationship happen rather than just have me be on his arm.
Yes. Well, I do need to hop off, but this was really fun. I appreciate you making space and for having the conversation. If anybody wants to, check out my stuff, it's erinpetrey.com. I was like, that's me.
Yep.
Along with my pink megaphone.
I love the pink megaphone though. But yeah, I'll let you go. So what I'll do is, once I get the video downloaded, I'll shoot you a text message just to find out the best email address to send it to, so I can get you a copy of it to you.
I was like, anybody can email me. It's just Erin@erinpetrey.com. It's pretty easy.
And then
it's on my website.
We'll get together and we'll figure out a good time to just touch back in, because, now I have more stuff to talk to you about, because I'm like, and this, and this, and this, and I love talking to this woman because she's giving me information and teaching me, and this.
Yeah, well, and that's another reason I got into this race in the first place, is I want to, try to revitalize and reinvigorate the Democratic Party and just try to heal us as a culture and a country. What
I'm trying to do too, in my own way, is I had somebody tell me that, why don't you just run for office? I'd probably win. Let's be honest. I'm a very charismatic, caring person. And I could help 10 to 15,000 people, or I could try to interview 100 or 200 people and help significantly more.
Great.
That's my platform. So,
but eventually, maybe you can do both. You never know.
Who knows? Maybe one day.
Every season of your life is different. So,
And I'm entering a new one, believe me.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you so much. And thanks everybody for watching.
Thank you for everybody for coming in and hanging out. Thank you, Erin, for joining me and having a conversation. And I look forward to the next one.
Bye.
Bye. No, I need you for my massages. I know. I'm not going anywhere in the near future. I'm still here for a while. But at least, in between my massage days, I can do this because this will help. If this is all I can do to help, I'll gladly do it. For all I know, it's going to reach that one person that can make it go to 10 people, that'll make it to 100 people. And next thing we know, we've started a revolution. So I'm going to hop off, guys. It is 10 o'clock and I have to work at 10 o'clock tomorrow. So I'm going to relax for a little bit and then go crash. Thank you all for coming and hanging out. I appreciate it. So I will be back tomorrow. I will have, let's see, tomorrow's Hunter Miranda. He is in California running for the House, so they're Representatives District 47. So come back tomorrow to hang out with me. That will be at 5 o'clock Eastern, I believe. Yes, 5 p.m. Eastern time. So I'll see you all then. Have a good night.